gonna hurt me? I'll be your friend.
Superhero movies often end up becoming long-running franchises, and that can often result in recasts being required. Whether it's due to scheduling conflicts, inadequate initial castings, actors and filmmakers falling out with each other, or simply because a franchise was rebooted, countless comic book characters have been recast in movies over the years. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, and in this video we'll walk you through some examples of both. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to keep up to date with all of CBR's great new videos, and they're super great, let me tell you.
Where will you go? The circus must be halfway to Metropolis by now.
Number 1. Val Kilmer as Batman, Hurt. Michael Keaton remains the best Batman to ever appear on the big screen.
Yeah, we said it.
It's not even up for debate, deal with it. So when Joel Schumacher took the Dark Knight's directorial reins from Tim Burton and recast the character with Val Kilmer in the lead, everything started to go downhill. The recast came in 1995 in the very forgettable Batman Forever, and it simply wasn't as good as either 1989's Batman or 1992's Batman Returns.
Bats aren't rodents, Dr. Meridian.
Not only was it a serious downgrade in terms of acting quality and suitability for the role of Gotham's protector, it also introduced the horrible concept of bat nipples, and we've never forgotten it. Kilmer didn't kill the franchise, and we'll come on to the rapscallion who did in a moment, but he certainly made it worse and contributed to the future downfall.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
Number 2. George Clooney as Batman, Hurt. The second wearer of the infamous Bat Nibbles costume, and the son of a gun who destroyed the Batman franchise in the 1980s and 1990s, was undoubtedly George Clooney. Clooney replaced Val Kilmer in the role of 1997's horrific Batman and Robin, with his popularity at the time intended to take the franchise back to its pomp, but it definitely didn't work out that way. Not only was Clooney infinitely inferior to Keaton, he also made Val Kilmer look like the perfect casting in comparison, a feat that is frankly worthy of any supervillain. In a movie full of negatives such as Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze, Chris O'Donnell's Robin, and the aforementioned Bat Nipples, Clooney was the low point. He really is the George Lazenby of Batman.
I'm always angry.
Number 3. Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, Saved. The 2003 Hulk movie with Eric Bana in the titular role was pretty terrible, and although it wasn't part of the current Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Hulk as a brand definitely took a hit as a result. Edward Norton then took on the role for the 2008 Incredible Hulk movie, which was the second movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and while he was a significant upgrade on Bana, the movie wasn't one of the MCU's best.
Oh man.
And Norton fell out with Marvel, resulting in the role needing to be recast going forward in the franchise. Mark Ruffalo stepped up and made his debut in 2012's The Avengers, and he fits the role perfectly.
Thanks.
Not only did he make Bruce Banner and the Hulk more likable, he also enabled the franchise to continue with the character as one of its main stars.
Okay.
Number 4. Brandon Routh as Superman, Hurt. The Christopher Reeve Superman movies of the 1970s and 1980s remain some of the most iconic comic book movies of all time. The late great Reeve was fantastic in the role, some might even say perfect, and his range of acting allowed him to effortlessly portray the meek and mild-mannered Clark Kent and the confident and powerful Man of Steel. So in 2006, when Superman Returns served as a sort of homage sequel to the original Superman movies, Brandon Routh faced an uphill struggle in the titular role. Routh wasn't a bad Superman per se, but he lacked Reeve's charisma.
Who are we talking about?
And Returns didn't live up to the Superman movies that came before it, with some people even saying its status as a sort of sequel tarnished the franchise. Quite frankly, in spite of their improved commercial success, the more recent Superman movies weren't that great either. Number 5. Kate Bosworth as Lois Lane, Hurt. Superman Returns resulted in several characters being recast, but none of the recastings were more strongly criticized than that of Lois Lane. Kate Bosworth played a supposedly aggressive, career-minded reporter, taking on the role that the late, great Margot Kidder had played all those years earlier.
You've got me! Who's got you?
Bosworth wasn't just good as Lane, her acting was less than enthusiastic, and she didn't fit the character at all.
I'm done, Superman.
Not to mention the fact that she was only 22 years old when she was cast, which is far too young to play Lois Lane. Amy Adams, who plays Lane in the current DCEU, auditioned for the 2006 role as well, but she lost out to Bosworth. Frankly, it would have been much better if she played the character back then too. Number 6. The younger cast of the X-Men, Saved. The X-Men movie franchise has been fantastic on the whole, and that includes the installments with the original cast. However, by the time the first X-Men movie with the younger cast was released, X-Men First Class, in 2011, the franchise was 11 years old, and there's only so long that any actor can keep playing the same character. Moreover, 2006's X-Men The Last Stand showed that the franchise really was going downhill with the original cast, so it's safe to say the younger cast saved the franchise and allowed it to go forward for years to come.
Splendid.
The like of James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, Jennifer Lawrence, and Nicholas Hoult replaced Sir Patrick Stewart, Sir Ian McKellen, Rebecca Romaine, and Kelsey Grammer as Professor X, Magneto, Mystique, and Beast respectively, and it was undoubtedly the best thing that could have happened to the franchise. McAvoy or Stewart, I can't keep these timelines straight.
Sorry to break it to you, but you're not the biggest freak in the school.
Well, that's a first.
Number 7. Ty Sheridan as Cyclops, hurt. In spite of what we just said in the last entry about the younger cast of the X-Men, the one notable exception, sadly, was Ty Sheridan's version of Scott Summers, aka Cyclops. James Marsden's version of the character was absolutely perfect. He looked like Cyclops, he acted like Cyclops, and he managed to stand out as a great character, in spite of the fact that he was always playing second fiddle to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Not everybody heals as fast as you, Logan.
Sheridan just didn't do much as a character. He lacked the screen presence to make him remotely memorable, and he didn't really act like a leader at all in 2016's X-Men Apocalypse. He'll play the character again in the upcoming Dark Phoenix movie, so hopefully he'll get to redeem himself, because up to now at least he's doing the franchise, or the character of Cyclops, no favors at all.
All of that chit-chat's gonna get you hurt.
Number 8. Jared Leto as the Joker, hurt badly. As much as we all would have loved to see Heath Ledger reprising the role of the Joker, the fact that the DCEU is a different franchise to the Dark Knight trilogy, and indeed the tragic fact that Ledger died in 2008, meant that that was sadly impossible. Jared Leto was, therefore, cast as the Clown Prince of Gotham in 2016's Suicide Squad, and he undoubtedly had an impossible task ahead of him when it came to following in Ledger's footsteps. And yeah, it went horribly wrong.
You don't want
Why,
no
what's
beef?
wrong?
You don't want no beef?
Credit where it's due, Leto did try to put his own spin on the character, but it was just too much to ask of him. His Joker looked ridiculous, that damaged tattoo was particularly silly, and his puppy love style obsession with Harley Quinn meant he was not the tantalizing psychopathic Joker we've come to know over the years. And that grill, ugh.
But you're Gotham's DA. You're not getting shot at. You're not doing your job right.
Number 9. Maggie Gyllenhaal as Rachel Dawes, saved. 2005's Batman Begins was a very good movie, and Katie Holmes' Rachel Dawes undoubtedly played a significant part in that being the case. But Holmes chose not to reprise the role in 2008's The Dark Knight, which saw Maggie Gyllenhaal step in and essentially save the Dark Knight trilogy. Gyllenhaal's transition into the role was effortless, and while she wasn't necessarily any better than Holmes as the character of Dawes, she did make the change almost unnoticeable, which is quite the feat.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Dawes was essential to The Dark Knight,
Rachel!
which also happens to be arguably the single greatest comic book movie of all time, and her relationship with Bruce Wayne is what drove the plot of the movie forward. While her character wasn't as prominent as Batman or the Joker, it was undoubtedly still an integral one, until, she blew to pieces.
Where is she?
I don't know! I would not let them tell me!
Number 10. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, hurt. The version of Lex Luthor in 2016's Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice warrants a little bit of credit. Zack Snyder tried to do something a little different with the character, with the unlikely casting of Jesse Eisenberg, but it just didn't work.
No.
I'm still laughing about it. Gene Hackman had portrayed the character in iconic fashion in the classic Superman movies.
Wonderful. Couldn't have said it better myself.
And the now disgraced Kevin Spacey hadn't done too bad a job in Superman Returns. Wrong! But damn how we wish Bryan Cranston had been cast as a villain in the DCEU. Eisenberg's performance doesn't hold a candle to previous versions, and was one of the weakest parts in a Batman vs. Superman movie that wasn't all that good to begin with. Martha. His version of Luthor is more like a mix of the Joker and the Riddler, or if we're being hypercritical, much like every other character Eisenberg has ever played. We'll never look at Jolly Ranchers the same way.
Well, well, well. Look what the cat dragged in.
Number 11. Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth, hurt. Okay, let's just get one thing very clear immediately here. Liev Schreiber is a considerably better actor than Tyler Mane, but that doesn't mean he played a better Sabretooth than the professional wrestler counterpart. Mane played the feral mutant in 2000's X-Men movie, and he gave off just the kind of vibe needed for the character. He didn't say much.
What was supposed to bring someone back with you?
But his look and presence were exactly what was required. Schreiber gave a much better overall acting performance in 2009's X-Men's Origins Wolverine, but he didn't look or feel like the Sabretooth we know from the Marvel comic books. And given that the X-Men is one of the best comic book movies of all time, and X-Men Origins Wolverine is one of the worst, the argument that Sabretooth was better in the former is entirely justified.
And I will bathe
The Star Wars in your blood.
Number 12, Josh Brolin as Thanos, saved. Although it's highly unlikely that Damien Poitier was ever in line to take the role of Thanos full-time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the fact is it's a very good job that the role ultimately went to Josh Brolin. Poitier played the role in the mid-credit scene in 2012's Avengers movie, when Thanos simply turned toward the camera and smiled, but Brolin took on the role from 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy onward. Thanos was an integral part of the biggest move in the MCU to date, this year's magnificent Avengers Infinity War. Still crying. And he's become incredibly popular. He's arguably the best villain in the franchise to date, amid some tough competition now that Marvel are finally getting their villains right. With a little-known actor like Poitier in the role, that simply wouldn't have happened. And Thanos is so important that it could have ruined the MCU for everybody. Pump the hate brakes, Thanos.
You know, in the future, if you're gonna steal cars, don't dress like a car thief, man.
Number 13, Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, Hurt. This is undoubtedly a controversial take on this subject because Andrew Garfield was by no means terrible as Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, but the evidence doesn't lie. The first Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire came to a climax in 2007 with the very poor Spider-Man 3, prompting the character to be recast and the franchise to be rebooted 5 years later.
Good riddance.
With Andrew Garfield in the titular role in The Amazing Spider-Man. 2 years later, after The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Garfield was gone and Marvel Studios took the character over to the MCU.
First we get ice cream, and then I'm out.
Probably because Garfield didn't truly capture the required awkwardness and geekiness of Peter Parker. The fact that he only played Spider-Man twice, while Maguire had 3 solo movies and Tom Holland has already played the character 3 times in the MCU, certainly backs up the argument that Garfield did Spider-Man no favors.
Stryker finally figured out how to shut you up.
Number 14, Scott Adkins as Wade Wilson, Hurt. Okay, so this entry is a little bit different to the others, but it definitely still applies. In 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine, we got a taste of what Ryan Reynolds might be like as Deadpool, as he played the character of Wade Wilson in the first half of the movie, prior to the character's transformation into the Deadpool, otherwise known as Weapon 11. Then, in the second half of the movie, the role was essentially recast, with Scott Adkins portraying that awful mute version of the character with a cocktail of mutant superpowers. Reynolds only played the role in extreme close-ups in the second half of the movie, and you can't help thinking that without Adkins stepping into Reynolds' shoes halfway through the movie, the character might have been allowed to keep his voice, meaning there could have been a semi-decent live-action version of Deadpool years ago. It's okay. The Deadpool we have now is just perfect.
You guys look like 2 seals fighting over a grape.
Number 15, Don Cheadle as War Machine, saved. You might not realize it, but James Rhodes, who's otherwise known as War Machine, is one of the most important characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In 2008's Iron Man movie, the character was played by Terrence Howard, but Howard fell out with Marvel Studios over money and refused to reprise his role in Iron Man 2. Bad call, bud.
Don't do that. They'll believe that. Don't do that.
Step forward, Don Cheadle, who has now played the character in 5 MCU installments, and he's been fantastic in the role. Without Rhodey, Tony Stark simply isn't as great a character, and given how important Stark is to the MCU 8 years after Cheadle's first appearance in the franchise, it could be said that he helped to save the MCU from finishing before it truly got the chance to begin. Thank you, Don Cheadle.
Don't be jealous.
No, it's subtle, all the bells and whistles.
Yeah, it's called being a badass.
And that's the end of our video. Did you enjoy it? What are your opinions of these recastings? Were they good or bad for their respective franchises? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to CBR for more great videos like this one. See you later. Excelsior!